If you're looking for something that's a little bit fun to get you through the last couple of days of this format before we receive Paldea Evolved cards, then this Samurott VSTAR deck could be something that you might like to look into. Samurott VSTAR is a 270 HP Dark-type V-Star Pokemon. It has the attack Merciless Blade, which, for 2 Darkness energies, deals 110 damage, and if our opponent's active Pokemon has any damage counters on it, it deals an extra 110, rounding up to 220 damage. This means that you can very easily get some big knockouts, but only if your opponent has enough damage counters on them. That's where our V-Star power comes in. It allows us to place damage counters on the field, which is fantastic for us. We can start attacking and get some big knockouts with our main attack. Now, we're going to have some other ways of getting damage counters on the board as well. The first one from Scarlet and Violet is Hawlucha, with its flying entry ability, which allows it to place 2 damage counters on 2 Pokemon, or 1 damage counter on 2 Pokemon, whichever one, however you define it. It deals damage. Flying entry is very, very useful to ping damage onto the bench, but we don't always have the flexibility to deal damage to the bench. We might need to deal damage to the active, and that's where a card like Spiritomb comes in. Spiritomb has the attack Ghastly Cries, or Ghostly Cries, I can't remember, it's on the screen, you can read it, for 1 colorless energy that lets you place damage counters based on the amount of Pokemon that are in your opponent's discard pile. Now, sometimes that's not going to be particularly high, but in other matchups you might find that this can deal upwards of 10 damage counters, and you never know, that might just be enough to get you into range of a knockout. We also have the ever popular Absol to get some damage counters onto your opponent's field. If your opponent doesn't play cards like Manaphy, we can use the attack Swirling Disaster for a Dark Energy to place 1 damage counter on each of our opponent's Pokemon in play. Add into that a copy of Radiant Alakazam, which will allow us to move energy around the field, and suddenly you can see how we're trying to get this damage set up for Hisuian Samurott VSTAR. We also play 1 copy of Agatha in the list. This supporter can potentially be nichely useful to move damage counters around, but we're probably not going to use it as often as we use Alakazam. It's just that little bit too difficult to get going. Overall, I've had a lot of fun with this deck list. If you like it, it's on the screen as well as down in the description. Whilst you're there, if you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel, that would be great. And let me know, what are you most looking forward to with Paldea Evolved? Personally, I'm looking forward to playing some Chen Pao. In the meantime, though, we'll just have to deal with Samurott. Let's take it out onto the ladder and see if we can't get a game. Time to get going, and we have ourselves an Absol in the active. We are going to be playing up against Lost Box by the looks of things. Sableye in the active does not pose a particular threat right now, but could very easily be one in the future. But no Comfeys, turn 1, so hey, I'll tell you what, this might be a chance here. We are going to start off by putting a Samurott on the bench. I think we might also, what do we get? Will we bench a second one, do you think? I don't think we need to. Let's use the Ultra Ball and get rid of that second Samurott. I'd really like to see a copy of Bidoof if we can. I don't think there's anything else we'd really like. I really want to get Industrious Incisors online as quickly as possible, so let's grab that Bidoof down. We'll end the turn. We don't have any energy to attach. Would have been nice if we could have Swirling Disastered, but hey, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Hopefully next turn we can get that to happen, and it looks like our opponent has unfortunately drawn out of that dead hand. They've managed to find a Comfey, and now they are going to start flower selecting. So we managed to survive a turn, and now Lost Box is going to get moving. I'm not necessarily super keen on that, especially now that they've found a copy of Colress's Experiment. That'll be 3 cards in the Lost Zone for them. But what I am relatively hopeful for is that our opponent doesn't play down Manaphy. If they don't play down Manaphy, then Swirling Disaster can put a bunch of damage counters in play here. So I think that is probably our best route to move forward in this game. But I will say this much, missing an energy is very rough. I really would have liked to have done that. If we could have found a single energy in this first turn, we would have been in such a better position. That's okay though. Looks like our opponent is just going to attach to a Charizard and then go for the Escape Rope. Okay, so I think the best choice is probably Samurott here. So we'll put that in the active. And it looks like our opponent is just going to put the Sableye forward and say, you know what, we don't have anything to do. So I'm more than happy to deal with that. Let's put the Samurott into play. We've got Hawlucha that we can use now. We can flying entry and place some damage counters on our opponent's side of the field. So put 10 on the Comfey and 10 on the Cram. And then we drew into a Research. So let's draw some cards and see what can be done. I think we're just going to go with an Escape Rope here. We've managed to find one ourselves, so we'll throw that down. And with the energy in hand, we'll be able to use Swirling Disaster on our Absol. So let's just get that energy up there. We can use Swirling Disaster here. 10 damage to each of our opponent's Pokemon. I don't think we need to do anything else here. We might put down the Spiritomb at some point. That seems like the most likely thing to do. We will deal some damage. That Comfey is now within 50 damage, so 1 attack plus the Samurott VSTAR ability. Maybe our opponent can't get out of the active, and they can't. Okay. Oh, and we have the Alakazam. Well, I don't even know actually whether we need to do anything like that now. Let's throw the Alakazam down. I'm going to throw down the Spiritomb as well, because we might need that down the line. Then I'm going to use Professor's Research, and we'll see what we can draw. A Bibarel is an incredibly good draw there. Very happy with that one. We use Great Ball. We don't need the Pokemon, but we definitely don't need that Hawlucha in deck anymore. At least I don't think we do. And then I think we're just going to Swirling Disaster. There's a part of me that maybe... I mean, we could use our ability here, Mooncleave Star. We could use that. That could have knocked out the Comfey that turn, but it doesn't seem like our opponent has that much to do. They just passed last turn. So I'm going to take the gamble and hope that we can hold on to our ability. It looks like they've found a way to get out of the active, which is not ideal. And now hopefully they just don't go into anything with flower selecting. It looks like we're still waiting on energy, not energy, on Pokemon to be in the discard pile. I'm going to go for a Nest Ball here, which is completely fair. There's the Manaphy, so not ideal for us, but we've at least got an opportunity here if we can get into our Samurott VSTAR to attack. We're looking pretty good. Another Research is pretty good. I like the Judge as well. Potentially could use the Mooncleave Star now. Just trying to toss up what the best play is. I think we might just Painful Spoons, move these damage counters across to the Manaphy. I'd really like to use Samurott's ability to knock out that Manaphy at some point. Let's just Ultra Ball these cards away. Not going to get a Pokemon here. We're just going to draw with Industrious Incisors and see what we can find. See what we can do. A Boss's Orders is pretty good. I like that. I don't know if that's going to be enough, though. Maybe we just attack with Swirling Disaster. Maybe we just Judge. We don't have an attack this turn. I think we're just going to use Boss. We're going to bring up this Cram. We're just going to hit into it for 10. Oh, do you know what I could have done? I could have bossed up the Manaphy, retreated, and then switched after Dark Patching. That actually would have been a really good play. Okay, so we've kind of given our opponent a bit of a chance here. That's a little disappointing from my point of view, but it's okay. Yeah, it's not ideal. That's okay. It's going to be fine. But now we can take 2 prize cards this turn, thanks to our Samurott and our Radiant Alakazam. So I think what we're going to do is we are going to attach to the active Spiritomb. We're going to use Dark Patch here to attach to the Samurott on the bench. I'm going to use... Oh, what are we going to do? We're going to Escape Rope. Should we just Mooncleave Star now? I think we just draw some cards. Just use Industrious Incisors and see what we get. Ultra Ball's pretty good. Let's see if we can find... We do find another Samurott, so that's handy. We can put that onto the bench if we want to. I'm thinking that we're probably going to Switch or Escape Rope here. I just don't know which one. I feel like Switch is probably the best idea. We'll get rid of the Cram. And then we can use the Mooncleave Star ability here. We'll be able to place 4 damage counters onto a Pokemon. I'm going to go for the Comfey. We'll get rid of that, since we don't have our Absol anymore. We don't necessarily care about the Manaphy, to be fair. And then we're going to move some damage off of the active Cram with Painful Spoons. We can just throw that up onto that Manaphy over there. And then we are going to use Merciless Blade. Our opponent hasn't really done too much yet, so I'm not sure that I necessarily want to judge them. Maybe could have, but that's, you know, be that as it may. It is what it is. Our opponent now going into their Charizard, so they're going to be able to do 250 damage this turn if they can attach an energy. If they have a Choice Belt, they'll take a knockout. That is a little concerning. Maybe should have judged. but our opponent isn't drawing cards, which I think is the more important thing. They have no Comfeys, they have already used a couple of Colress. It doesn't seem like they've got a huge amount of options now. And if they... Oh, there's a Klara. Okay, so they're going to go for probably the Comfey and the other card, the Cram. I can't remember exactly what it was. Defiance Band! Oh, I was not expecting to be hit by that. Defiance Band deals an extra 30 damage to Pokemon when you're behind. And that's a knockout. Okay, so now we're in a little bit of strife here. Our opponent does not have any Pokemon in the discard pile, which means that our basic energy attachment on the Spiritomb is not a good idea. We're going to need to top deck, well, not top deck, but we're going to need to find a copy of, Dark Patch here to help us attack with Samurott. We don't have the Dark Patch yet, but we could theoretically get it. There's a Lumineon. I like the Lumineon. That's a pretty good card to find out of the prize cards. I'm going to go with the Great Ball here. No copy of Samurott VSTAR is disappointing. Let's quickly play down this Temple of Sinnoh and then use Industrious Incisors. We need 2 cards out of 3, and we don't find them. Okay, so this is a little grim. On the plus side, our opponent's Radiant Charizard can't attack this turn. They literally cannot attack. So we're just going to go with a Will-O-the-Wisp. And that's probably... Is that what we can do? I mean, it is, isn't it? Ghostly Cries. We could discard 2 tools. No, that's just Will-O-the-Wisp. 20 damage onto the Radiant Charizard. If they can't find a switch, then they're not going to be able to do anything this turn. Next turn, we can move some damage off. We can, the Escape Rope's fine, we're just going to throw out this Hawlucha, we don't really care about that. Next turn we could take a knockout on this Charizard, potentially, as well as knocking out the Manaphy if we get a Hisuian Samurott, but the concern is going to be now, I'm going to go down to 2 prizes remaining, so a single knockout on a Samurott V-Star will win our opponent the game. I feel like a couple of turns have not gone correct for us, either through bad luck or through my poor judgment. But that's alright. We're going to do our best, and that's all we can do. I mean, we lose the game if he plays boss's orders, right? So that's probably not something that we want to happen. Is my camera? No, it's fine. I thought my camera was off for a second there, but it turns out it's okay. Anyway, whilst our opponent is bumbling around here trying to figure out what's going on, how are you feeling about Paldea Evolved? Would you like to play Chien-Pao? And are you happy that it's going to be free on the Pokemon TCG Live Battle Pass? It seems like a really, really good deal to play this game when you get to play these cards for free. Combustion Blast is a knockout, so the Radiant Charizard is in the active for us to KO. I'm going to promote the Samurott here. We've got the energy. All that we need is the V-Star. And surely it can't be too hard to find that. All those energy cards that we were looking for in the first couple of the turns of the game are now coming into our hand. We play a ton of different energies, so definitely a bit frustrating to have to wait. We have the V-Star in hand, so we could use our Klara here. It's a bit disappointing to guarantee it with the Klara. We could potentially get beaten to the punch here with a good hand from our opponent. Let's go for our Absol and a couple of Darkness Energies. Don't have any Hawluchas left, which is disappointing, so we can't use that to knock out the Manaphy. I mean, we could have picked up the Hawlucha and knocked out the Manaphy, but we don't need to. We can just use our Alakazam here. Painful Spoons will move one of those damage counters to the benched Manaphy, and that's all we want to do. We want to leave 10 on the Charizard so that we can take a knockout with our Samurott. And we knock out the Manaphy there as well. And here's the Heavy Ball. We will get that basic Samurott V out of the prizes. We saw that one there before. I think it's probably fine now to just attack with Merciless Blade. Take the KO on the Charizard and go down to 2 prize cards remaining. The big issue for us is our opponent is also on 2 prizes and we don't have any damage on the field. So if our opponent is able to get a big kind of turn going, where they maybe Klara, pick up the Charizard and attack into our Samurott V-Star, then that's going to end up being really bad for us. Probably ends up losing us the game. So hopefully they have a very average turn. They go for the Comfey, they Flower Select. This is what makes this Lost Box Dex so strong. And a Chorus, so no Klara. To get back those cards, the Charizard will stay in the discard pile for the moment, but a single attack onto this Hisuian Samurott VSTAR is also quite threatening. We're going to need to use Judge next turn, and with this hand, I don't know that we're going to be able to get there. It doesn't look too big, but we have a ton of cards here. Basic Energy just clogging our hand up. Maybe we shouldn't have grabbed them with Klara. Another error from me. Don't often notice so many errors, but it just suggests to me that I'm not paying attention when I should be. But that's okay. We play the game, and we will figure it out together. What is our opponent going to do here? Are they going to use a Cramorant to attack into the active? Are they going to use their Sableye to potentially knock out the Spiritomb and go down to 1 prize card remaining? That could be a good play as well. I feel like we might be staring down the barrel of a loss depending on what our opponent does. They have the free retreat with Beach Court so they can get out of the active. An Echoing Horn, that's really quite bad. The Hawlucha going onto the bench. Maybe we should have benched that Hisuian Samurott V earlier. Now we are in real trouble here because a lot of our cards are now completely unplayable. That Bibarel in play is not going to be doing anything for us. We can only realistically play a couple of switch cards and a Basic Energy, and that won't get us down to 5. Here comes the switch card, Cramorant, into the active. It's going to use Spit innocently and deal 110 damage. And now I think we are in trouble. We're just going to have to hope here we don't draw into the Judge. We can at least play the card, but I'm not feeling particularly impressed here. We're going to have to just Merciless Blade. We can't draw down. So we deal 110 damage to Cram, we take a prize, we go down to 1 remaining. But I tell you what, our opponent only needs to find a Klara to get that Charizard back, and they've got it in their hand. There you go. Maybe I should have benched that Hisuian Samurott just that little bit earlier. We could have maybe had another attacker set up. Maybe the Spiritomb was the wrong direction. I don't know. All I know is that Samurott has been a lot of fun and a nice, easy way to close out this particular format. Thanks everyone for sticking around, by the way, and watching these all the way through. We are going to have way more content coming from this new set very, very shortly. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you all next time for more from the Sableyes. Bye-bye.